Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining me for a meditation. Whether it's your first time meditating or you're pretty familiar, I'm going to walk you through it step by step. We're just going to do a few minutes and a few minutes of meditation at the very beginning of your day. As soon as you wake up, your mind's still kind of in that altered, sleepier state. And that's effective because before you get into action, in your day, getting out of your bed and getting into action and answering emails and taking text messages and doing school drop-offs and all of that. Before all of that, go within so you can stop going without. That's the point. When you wake up, your focus is still more inward. And when you're doing all that I just barely described, that's a more outward focus. So before you go out, go within. Let's begin. I want you to sit comfortably wherever you like. You're welcome to sit on a cushion, on your couch. I'm on my couch right now. You're welcome to sit in a chair. You can do this in your bed if you choose. Try to keep yourself awake instead of dropping back off to sleep. But just be comfortable. If you sit cross-legged, if that's comfortable, place a pillow or a couple of blankets. Just put something underneath your seat that will give your hips to be higher than your knees. And if you're sitting in a chair, just place your feet on the floor. If you're sitting cross-legged too, another thing is you can take your right hand to the flesh of your right buttock and thigh and kind of pull it out toward the back wall. And then the other side, same on the left. Okay. You're looking to get your shoulders and your hips in line over each other. There's a current of energy in the spine. And if you're sitting all hunched up, then that energy is kind of all jammed up, blocked up. So just line yourself up, shoulders over your hips as best you can. And a lot of times you'll hear sit up straight. And if you're not typically going around sitting up straight, that can be a little, fatiguing on your back muscles. So what I would recommend is instead get your seat pressed into whatever it is you're sitting on. For me, it's a couch, so I'm pushing my seat, my buttocks, my hips into the couch underneath me, the cushion. And when I do that, there's just a gentle lift and lengthening of my spine. That's very different than trying to pull the spine up and not have the foundation really planted underneath me. So press down into your seat, and there'll be a lift of the spine in a way that's organic. And then from there, I'd like you to take your right hand to your face, and I'd like you to open your mouth, and on your next exhalation, fog up your hand. It's a great time to do this because think about how all that carbon dioxide sat in your lungs all night. It gets stagnant, it gets stale. And that's what happens when we hold our breath and we don't let it fully out. It gets stagnant. And that's where it starts dulling our thoughts, dulls the mind of our clearer thinking, more alert thinking, etc. So do another one. Take in a breath. This time, exhale if you can to a count of 4 to 5. Fog up your hand. Try that one more time. You're going to inhale to a count of 4 to 5. And when you breathe out, I want you to hiss like a snake. It's like you're letting air out of a tire. Pause. When all the air's out, pause. Very slowly, let the breath come in. Hiss it out. I was working with a client yesterday on this breathing technique before a surgery she's having this morning. And this was absolutely blew her mind. It absolutely blew her mind that she felt instantly calmer. And she had, her O2 stats were low. She was struggling to get air. She absolutely felt the shift. So you make your exhalations longer and slower than the breath you take in. And when you take time to make them longer and slower, the inhale, the next inhalation comes in a little calmer, a little quieter, not frantic, not fighting for air. From that space, our mind is a little more settled for meditation. Let's take one more breath. It won't be your last one, and be grateful for that. And air it out. Tiny pause at the bottom of that exhalation. You'll notice your inhale comes in naturally for you, but in a way that has more freedom and more fullness. When you're doing this, at the beginning of the day, you're absolutely plugging in your parasympathetic nervous system. When you jump out of bed and you start racing around and you start answering emails and you're bombarded with this and your boss gives you a look and you're a little late dropping off your kids, that's plugging in sympathetic nervous system energy, which is the stress response, fight or flight. When you take a moment to shift gears just by the breathing, you drop more into the parasympathetic, which is more restorative to mind. It's really the phrase to the stress response is fight or flight. The phrase to parasympathetic is rest and repair. You can think clearer, you are calmer, you are more grounded. Let's meditate from that space, from plugging in that space, and the meditation will further plug it in. And you're welcome to utilize that breathing throughout this meditation or anytime you want. Just make your exhalations longer and slower. Then the inhale comes in calmer, quieter, fuller. Okay? Please take your 10 fingertips to touch and rest your arms and your on your thighs, and your 10 fingertips to touch right in front of you. Tuck your chin in a little bit so you can just softly gaze at your 10 fingers. Let's focus by dropping all your focus. Your physical eye lands only on your thumb tips touching. Your thumb tips touching. You can physically feel them touching when your mind is quieter. When your thoughts of mind, the pacing of your thoughts is calmer, you're more likely to get a slice of the present moment, thumb tips touching. And if you want to, you can take away all the other fingertips for a moment. Just so you're like, I'm really dialed in to my thumb tips touching. And now bring the rest of the fingertips together. And let the rest of the fingertips really kind of anchor the mind, thumb tips touching. The other fingertips are a support to the concentration of focusing on the hands. Right now, beam all your concentration. Dial it right into thumb tips touching. Drop your eyes onto your first fingertips touching. Your mind can wander off, kind of like a puppy you take on a walk. You can come back into that breathing, and the breathing will literally be the bridge that anchors your mental focus to your index fingers touching. The mind that is used to running around with a whole bunch of thoughts coming in fast, to say nothing about the outside world and our responses to what's happening with air, might need a little training. This is a practice, and that's why we call it a practice. There's nothing to get down on yourself about if you lose your focus. Just simply hear my voice, plug back into it, beam your concentration on your index fingers touching. A mind that's been entrained for more survival living, hurried living, worried living, needs a little bit of retraining. Drop your concentration and funnel it right down. You can envision a funnel, and in that funnel, your focus is coming right out into your middle fingers touching. As your mind is a little bit more subdued, and as your thoughts become quieter, we start to have more space in between the same old thinking that we'll do every day without even being aware of it, or just have like the same thoughts repeated over and over. But as your mind gets a little quieter, there's like a little tiny gap of space between thoughts. And that's when you might go, oh yeah, I was supposed to do this. Or, oh yeah, I said I would do this for that person. Oh yeah. Because there's a gap in the thoughts. You're disrupting that kind of drift or fog of all these thoughts coming in at once and being all jammed up like traffic. Then you get a little space, and then there's clarity. There's calmer. There's a chance to bring consciousness and go, that's not helping me to think that way. Or maybe some of my worried thoughts are just scaring me to death, further stimulating stress response. So as we get a little gap, can you use that gap today in mind at the start of the day to say, no, here's the way I want to think, therefore feel today? Is there a mantra? Is there an intention? Is there a phrase that you want to use as an anchor point, as an intention to stay anchored to as you go about today? It's a perfect opportunity to do that now. Drop all your concentration now into your third fingertips touching. Third fingertips are touching. Your intention for the start of the day is so powerful. Your intention could be today I pause before I speak. Today I pause. I hit a pause on the way that I criticize myself. I pause my critical thinking. Today is a new day. Today, I am more mindful of what I'm eating and why I'm eating what I eat. Today, I focus on what I'm grateful for as opposed to things I'm worrying about. Whatever it is, your mantra has to speak to you. Third fingers touching. And the trippy part is, there's a part of your subconscious that says, I know exactly the specific intention that you need. But your autopilot, running around personality self, might not register. So we drop in a little deeper to a deeper thought, to a deeper feeling. Your mantra today could be, today I slow down. Third fingers touching. All your concentration hones right in on third fingers touching. Now just gently drop your gaze onto your pinky fingers touching. See your pinky fingers physically touching. So it's one thing for your mind to say, yeah, I know they're touching because I see it. What I'm asking for is feel it. Feel your pinky fingers touching. Feel them touching. You might feel a tingling sensation. You might feel a warmth. You might feel like a pulse of energy, a current of energy. But physically feel them. So if I said, how do you know your pinky fingers are actually touching? You don't just know it from mind, you know it from the feel. It's like love. How do you know you love? I feel it. To know it is one thing. To know it is like one level. To feel it drops you down a little bit more. And to feel it, you're more connected to your body. To say you know it because you see it is more coming from a headspace. Taking a breath. Hiss it out. At the end of that exhalation, feel all 10 fingers touching. How do you know? You know because you feel it. You feel your fingertips touching. That's how you know. And feeling is just the way our body speaks to us. It communicates to us. That's how our body communicates to us. How do I know my stomach hurts? I physically feel it. Sorry about the alarm. But here's the thing. When your mind is calmer, when your breath is more settled in, you're moving away from a reactive state. So then when my alarm goes off and I don't want it to, I can just hit stop as opposed to getting all frustrated and embarrassed and things like that. I apologize that my alarm went off. 10 fingers touching. When I set my alarm last night, I didn't plan to be doing this, but I'm glad I am. 10 fingertips touching. When you rein in all your concentration on your 10 fingertips touching, and you are deciding that you're going to be in the driver's seat of the way you think today, and therefore the way you feel, because the way you think, absolutely, there's a feeling that follows it. So if you think a worried thought, then you're going to physically feel in your body the feeling of worry as it shows up for you. And we all have a different degree of sensitivity. And as we, especially empathic people, very sensitive, very much feelers of emotion, that's great if they're happy. And, not so great if they're worried, stressed, anxious, sad, depressed, etc. But when you decide today is the day I'm going to rewire the vibration, the attitude of my thinking, you'll have a different feeling on the inside. So that's like your internal world, and then life outside you is the external. And so if you kind of go in and work a little bit on the internal, which you do have power and control over and choice over, then the outside world might not get such a reaction from you, etc. 10 fingertips touching. Take a breath in. Open your mouth and just let a sigh escape fully to the bottom of your lungs. Never feel foolish about that sound, because the nervous system is listening for it and loves it and craves it, because it's a sign, it's a tone. There's a tone in that is calming the mind. That's a good way to end, right? Have a beautiful day. Namaste.